Okay. I think I have done that correctly. So I want to welcome everyone to our, what I think is our first CSJ Virtual Town Hall and Awards event. It's really nice to be with you all, even if it's just virtually. I'm Rachel Goodman. I'm the co-chair of the membership committee. Dr. Sean Smith, I think just saw his name pop up, so he is with us as well. He is my co-chair and co-MC for the evening. So we're, Lauren in a moment, our current CSJ president, is going to give a few more opening remarks, but just, by way of sort of welcoming everybody, we know this is a really tough time in a lot of ways for many of us individually, many of our communities, and so I'm just very grateful that so many people are interested in being a part of CSJ, interested in doing social justice work. It's obviously incredibly needed. And so we're happy to be able to be with you all virtually and get to share some of the opportunities for involvement, as well as honor our award and grant recipients, which we didn't get to do since we didn't have an ACA conference in person this year. So we're going to do that tonight as well. So just thank you for being here. So this is very briefly our agenda. Our president, then we're going to do our awards, and then we'll have some space for board members and committee members to give some updates. And then if there's anybody else that we don't have listed there who's a board or committee member who wants to say something, just let us know. We're happy to share the mic, as it were. And then we'll try to just spend the rest of the time with hearing from members or hearing from folks who want to be involved. That's one of the things that we always do at our town halls at the ASA conference, and it's always so helpful just to hear what's working, what's not working, what people want from CSJ, what they want to do as a part of CSJ. So that is our agenda, and then we're going to close with what I've been calling community care, because I think self-care is a little problematic in some ways, putting the individual responsibility back on people instead of putting the responsibility on systems and structures to build in ways of caring and ways of taking care of one another. So we're gonna, we'll open with Lauren sort of doing a version of that, and then we'll close with a version of that as a community. So that's the agenda. Welcome, and thank you all for being here. And I'm gonna turn it over to Lauren.
Thank you, Rachel. So welcome everyone. Thank you for being here for our CSJ Virtual Town Hall. Tonight is a night that we celebrate. And I know that at a time like this, in the midst of so much suffering, uncertainty, it may seem odd to be celebrating. But tonight we celebrate you, our members, and the important work that you're doing to promote justice and equity that's needed more than ever in the places where you live, love, work, and play. Tonight, hopefully for at least an hour and a half or so, we rest, we come together, we connect, we hear from you, we share our ideas and initiatives, and we honor one another in our social justice work. As counselors, we may not always take our own advice, but we all know how important it is that we take care of ourselves and one another. And we're often better at taking care of others. I'm quite sure that you all are doing that. So I hope that you're also taking care of yourselves. Tonight, after celebrating excellence in social justice work, we will share with you updates on what your CSJ leadership has been doing to serve you and the mission of CSJ. This includes, and you'll hear more about this later from our committee leaders, but our almost ready to launch mentorship program, our summer webinar series, upcoming CSJ newsletters, the releasing of a CSJ advocacy statement, as well as our response to the recent and continued violent and negligent policing of Black Americans. So more on this later as our committee leaders and board members have a chance to share with you what we've been planning and doing. And after that, we're excited to open the space for you so you can let us know how we're doing. Like Rachel said, this is a hallmark of the CSJ Town Hall, which we've had at the ACA conference for, I don't even know how many years. So this is our opportunity to do that tonight, to connect with all of you and hear from you. I guess that's it. I'm looking forward to this conversation with you all, and thank you for being here.
And Lauren, did you want to do the moment of silence now?
Yes, thank you. So to open this town hall, we would like to have a minute of silence together in remembrance of the valuable, irreplaceable Black lives that have been taken at the hands of white supremacy, racism, and racial violence in this country and beyond that. With too many names to count, please let us take a minute to remember all who have been lost and taken from us, the families, friends, communities, and all who have been impacted by it. So let's now take a minute of silence and remember. All right, so I'll turn it back to you, Rachel. Thank you everyone for being here, and welcome.
Thank you. And hopefully in line with what Lauren shared and what underlies CSJ, that moment of silence, we'll make sure that moment of silence is followed by action for social justice, both of which I think are really important. Thank you, Lauren. Okay. So we are now going to do, we're going to honor our CSJ award winners. And I believe we have Dr. Candace Norris Brown with us to do the honors, which we may need to unmute her. Let me see.
I did.
There you are.
Yeah.
Great, great.
Hey, and so to just kind of dovetail on what you stated just now, talking about social justice action, this is a great opportunity because the individuals that we are honoring this evening, they did just that. They moved from just thinking and processing to actually doing something in their communities, in their places of work, so much so that they were nominated by their colleagues. So it's just with great pleasure that we acknowledge the hard work that they're doing. So I'm excited to just call them off one by one. And we're going to start with our Ohana Award. And that award goes to Dr. Nathaniel Brown. I hope that he is on right now. Our Climate Justice Awards go to, the recipient for that was Monica Rodriguez, excuse me. Our Mary Smith Arnold Award was Danielle Magar. Our Reese House Social Justice School Counselor Award was for Dr. Rafe McCullough, and those were our awards. Then we had 4 grant honorees. And the first one, we'll acknowledge Jan Gay, Danielle Magar, Isabel Farrell. I think I saw her pop up here. I think I saw her. Not sure if she's here. She's on. And Shakita Holmes. Those were our 4 grant recipients. So if there's a way we could throw our hands up or we could clap, let's just acknowledge them. In a time where there's so much turmoil, we can still pay homage to some of our great professionals.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Candace. And thank you to all of the award winners for the wonderful work that you're doing. I'm sure that we'll find ways to share out more information. It's always really fun to hear about the grant projects and about the wonderful work everyone's doing. So I'm sorry we can't do that in person, but we'll look for ways that we can share that out, I'm sure, so we can read about what you're doing at least. Thank you. Okay. So I think next up we have our president-elect, who I saw on the call a few moments ago, for a couple different things that Dr. Colette Dollarhide is going to talk to us about, the membership survey, as well as a discussion about a potential national conference. So Colette, if you are ready, I have the slides up, so you can just tell me when to go to the next one.
Okay.
This is your intro slide.
Okay. I really appreciate this opportunity to share this with everyone. It's a repeat of a survey that was conducted several years ago, 2 or 3 years ago, and we updated it and issued it again in order to get a current picture of a variety of things that our members consider important. So first slide, then if you could go fast forward. So our members are primarily students and professionals who are 5+ years in the field, and then early professionals. I realize it's a small respondent pool, or respondent, respondent number, 50 respondents, but we think that this is helpful in understanding what some of the things are that people consider important. In the next slide, we can take a look at where people work. 42% of the individuals who responded to the survey are current students. The next highest number were counselor educators. And then after that, we're licensed professional counselors. We don't have any current school counselors, which is something maybe that we'll be working on during the coming year, because I think that school is a wonderful place where social justice could be enacted. On the next slide, we can take a quick look at why people stated that they join CSJ. And this was one of those questions where people could respond to multiple prompts. So you'll see 47 here. It looks like, oh, but you had 50 respondents, but it represents 40% of the total responses for all of the answers for this question. So the mission of the organization, advocacy actions, absolutely, and then connections with other CSJ members were also important. And then the next slide talks about what they value about CSJ membership. And so I pulled just the very valuable and somewhat valuable columns to show you that I think it's important to recognize networking was a critical advantage, I guess, that people felt that they were able to access as a member of CSJ. Continuing education was also really highly rated. Learning about social justice issues was extremely highly rated, and webinars. So when you add all those numbers together, you can see that a lot of the things that CSJ does are considered valuable, very valuable and somewhat valuable to the members. But kind of remember some of these things, because I'm going to refer to them in a moment talking about a conference. And then here's kind of a listing of the things that people indicated, and this was open block questions, so people could type in what they felt were important, the things they felt were important. The national issues included violence and trauma with marginalized communities, police brutality and gun violence, certainly kind of some pre indicators of some of the issues that we're looking at today, advocating for youth and families along the border, immigration reform, complex trauma, bullying, racial battle fatigue, et cetera. So many of these issues at the national level are important and a part of our daily discourse about how do we help our clients, our students, and our communities to move forward. On the next slide, what we're looking at are international issues, including environmental crises, and then within the counseling profession and other, we see kind of an interesting sort of overlap. Agencies focused on money rather than client issues, and then how to keep the advocacy conversation on advocating for others, not just ourselves. And so when looking at, and then the final slide is what forms of communication do you prefer? It looks like the website, Facebook has, listserv, all of those, it's no one predominantly, large number in any single category, but people seem to be accessing CSJ information on a variety of different platforms, which is important to note. So one of the things that I think is important is talking a little bit about how is it that we can better meet the needs of our members. And I was looking at these results and looking at the outcomes from a social justice summit that we had in the 2019 conference in San Diego. And a lot of the issues that people brought up was the sense that the needs that they perceive as important related to social justice are not being met at in any one concentrated offering. So you get a little bit from the webinars, get a little bit here, get a little bit at ACA. Well, what this made me wonder about is, and I'd be very interested in hearing your feedback, whether that's in this setting or in, via email, because you can see my email there, would be thinking about our own standalone social justice conference. I've seen a number of organizations do this. I've seen this through AHC. They've got their own standalone conference. I've seen a non-organization related conference arise basically out of common interest. That's the Evidence-Based School Counseling Conference. I believe that we have the energy, the drive, and a concentrated topic or focal area that would absolutely make a wonderful conversation that whether we host it ourselves or whether we co-host it with AMCD or SAGE or some of the other divisions within ACA, but that we basically be the conveners of a conference that allows us and our members to network with each other, to learn from each other, to support each other in this process. You're going to be hearing about the mentoring program. It's all part and parcel of what do we need to do in order to create many hands for this lift, because this is important work. It's absolutely vital work. And we I think, need each other in order to be as successful as we can be so that our clients, our communities can rise. I am excited about the idea of working toward this idea in this coming year. And I have a team of people at my university and a team of great people here in Ohio who have all been real excited about this idea. The leadership team for CSJ has been excited about this idea. So it might be something that we may be able to pull together in the next year or two. So I'm excited about that. So I welcome your ideas. I think that the time has come for us to be able to have these conversations and not rely on ACA to meet the needs for social justice content, but let's, do it together. So that's it for me. So thank you.
Thank you, Colette. Did you want to ask for discussion now about the CSJ conference or potential conference, or did you want to wait until the end when we're kind of having more Q&A?
I think we'll maybe waiting a little bit longer. I don't want to, derail our conversation about, other important topics. So this may be, something. I see some things in the chat, which is very exciting. And so I think if at the end, if people want to email me or that kind of thing, that would be great too. But thank you, Rachel. I don't want to take any more time.
No, that's fine. Yeah, I think it's exciting. And so let's make sure we return to it when we kind of have space for open dialogue. So my co-host, Dr. Smith, do you want to take over as we move to the next slide?
I guess that was a hint.
Was that subtle?
Oh, good evening,
Just spread the
everyone.
love.
No problem. Good evening, everyone. Good evening. Good evening. And we like to give an opportunity for all of our leadership here with us tonight. And I want to give an opportunity to Dr. Delia Owens, President-Elect for CSJ, to bring some words. Delilah?
So, Sean, I'm excited to join this organization. I've been with CSJ for a long time. I just wanted to briefly mention that I am chairing the research committee right now, and we're excited because we've been talking about the issues of race and racial battle fatigue, internalized oppression, literally since October. So the committee and I were just talking about things that we would like to see, like CSJ do. I'm very impressed with the work of AMCD, and I get excited about the workshops and everything that they do. So we were saying, as members of CSJ, what are some things that we would like to see? I think the first issue that came up is the continuous thing that when clients of color come to therapy, they come one time and never return. So we talked about why that could be the case. We talked about that quite a bit. So what we decided to do is just write about some of the issues in the upcoming newsletter. So our first edition was on racial battle fatigue and mental health. And it's just very timely for what's going on in the country right now. Two of my doc students presented at the ACA conference the year before last. They had a 7 a.m. presentation on racial battle fatigue and mental health, and they had over 70 attendants at 7 a.m. So we thought, well, let's write about this and see what the response is from the membership. And just so happened, everything just started happening in the country. So July 1, we have a piece coming out on racial battle fatigue and the psychological and physiological effects of just dealing with the in and out, just racism every day. Just how does that affect you psychologically, emotionally, physically, what that does to you, and how does racial battle fatigue mirror mental health issues? I think some people, especially Black men, are dealing with issues of race, and it looks like a mental health issue, but it's really not. So we talked about that in the upcoming issue. It's going to be July 1. That's the first one. The second piece that we wrote about was internalized oppression in adolescence. For children of color who are seeing all of these issues in the world, how does that affect them psychologically? What might that look like? So that will be coming out in the October newsletter. So we're excited, and I'm very proud of ACA just stepping up and finally, I feel like we're finally discussing the issues that should have been discussed a long time ago. So I'm excited because I fear, and I talk to my colleagues in different states about this, my fear is that I don't want to retire and we're talking about the same issues of race and we keep adding more and more names to the list of people who've been victimized and killed. I think as mental health professionals, it is time to step up and move beyond talk and start doing something. So thank you I'm very excited to be working with Dr. Dollarhide, Dr. Smith, Lauren. Thank you all very much. And I think I'll stop there and hopefully we can continue this discussion for the next, just keep the momentum going long after we've all retired. So thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Owens. And then I think we have a number of different initiatives going on, taking place, and we wanted to give some space to the new mentoring program. And we have some representatives from that particular committee here tonight to speak to that. We want to give them some space to do exactly that. And who's here? I'm sorry.
Hi, this is Christina.
There we go. Thank you.
So as most of you probably know, we started the mentoring program by sending out the announcement that we were accepting applications. Because of everything changing with, ACA being canceled and COVID, we got a little bit of a later start than we had expected. But we did spend some time this past week matching up everyone, and we are going to be sending out emails hopefully later this week. We just have a few loose ends we need to tie up. But you should be getting, all of you who apply, you should be getting an email by the end of the week with who your partner is. And so these mentor pairs are supposed to be for a 12-year period at a minimum, a 12-month at a minimum. And then hopefully next year, just prior to ACA, we would put out another call to get another group of pairs started. So we're open to questions. Obviously our personal emails are on there, but we do have a mentorship email address that I can't remember offhand. Let me get it for you real quick. It is mentoring@counseling-csj.org. So general questions can be sent there as well. And that's pretty much it, unless anyone has any other questions about the mentoring program.
Hey,
Christina, is it still possible to sign up if folks are still interested? Are you accepting more people?
We have matched everyone up, but we did have a few extra mentors. So, it's kind of hard to get an exact number. So I think we have maybe 4 or 5 extra mentors. So if there are some mentees looking for someone, we could potentially, have a few more mentees sign up. But hopefully, we didn't want to keep taking applications for too long and then, not have those pairs set up, too late in the process.
That's great. And then I just saw in the chat that a couple people wanted the email address written down in the chat. So if you have a second to do that, there it is. Like magic. Okay, thank you. Okay.
And then Rachel, if I wanted, I'm ad-libbing at this point, so I want to go ahead and acknowledge one of our past presidents. I'm not going to say elder. I'm just going to say past president. That's with us among many, but this particular past president is being endorsed by CSJ for ACA President-Elect, and that's Dr. Judy Daniels. It's been formally announced, and there are 2 other candidates that are running. So I'm going to allow Dr. Daniels to speak a little bit, share a little bit, being that we are endorsing her. I think it's only fitting that we give her some space to speak with the membership. Judy?
That's great. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Great. Okay, perfect. Thank you so much. I am a founding member of CSJ. I've been at CSJ from the very beginning, and it's always exciting to see how CSJ has evolved and to listen to and hear from the folks that are doing really great things. This conference sounds fantastic. The mentoring program is something that I know we've wanted to do for a long time. And I'm so excited to see that it's up and running and that CSJ is just doing some really phenomenal things. So that's always makes my day and warms my heart to see that, because as one of the founding members, I'm so invested in making sure that CSJ continues and does well and thrives and really is one of our primary divisions that we have within the American Counseling Association. So I'm thrilled to be here tonight or this afternoon, whatever time zone you're in. I'm in Hawaii, so it's still afternoon here. And yeah, I'm happy to say a few things. I am running for the president of the American Counseling Association, and there's a lot of different things that I would like to see happen if I was to be elected. Obviously, in today's world, we have incredible amounts of issues with the double pandemic of COVID, as well as the racism and the police brutality that's going on. Those issues would be nice if we didn't have to deal with those, but those are systemic issues that we're probably going to have to deal with for quite a while. So I look forward to the opportunity to be able to address those issues. I've been on the ACA Governing Council for 2 terms as a CSJ rep, so that's 6 years, and then I've just been appointed for 2 additional years. And I'll just be really brief, but over the time that I have spent on the Governing Council, I have worked very hard to promote social justice issues, to change a policy that ACA used to have that blocked every motion I would try to do related to social justice. I was able to revise that. I've been able to put forward a number of different motions on different social justice issues. And for those of you that are familiar with ACA, in 2017, we created a strategic plan, of which I was one of several people who helped to create social justice advocacy as one of the main pillars of our strategic plan. So I don't want to take up too much time, but I just wanted to say I'm honored to be here. I'm always honored to be a part of CSJ. I'm just thrilled to see all the different things that you folks are doing. And I live each and every day for the opportunity to take social justice out into the community and try to further it through ACA and in anything that I can do for CSJ. So always happy to support and be a part of things. And again, thanks for the opportunity to allow me to speak for a couple of minutes. And I look forward to hearing more about the different things that are going on. So thanks.
Thank you, Judy. Yeah, Sean, you and I were going to do the same thing. So we must be virtually in sync. And just note, take a moment just to say thank you to Judy for all that she's done in founding the organization and really truly remaining very active. You know, even when I was president a couple years ago, and just incredibly supportive, incredibly committed, such a wonderful mentor and a wonderful person. So thank you, Judy. Thank you for being here tonight. Yeah.
And just let me also be clear about the process for voting. And so just so that everyone's on the same page, ACA does not permit candidates to essentially campaign, all right?
Yeah.
However, friends of candidates, divisions of candidates can certainly campaign on their behalf. You understand what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
So again, candidates cannot campaign, but divisions that have endorsed said candidate can spread the word. All right, can spread the word. So I want everybody to keep that in mind.
Thank you, Sean and Rachel and everyone for all your support throughout the years. And again, you know, I don't run for these types of positions for myself or my ego or anything. It's all about social justice and what I can promote and what we can do to change things within the counseling profession. And we have a lot of work to do, but we've made some good strides and we're going to keep making them, whether I'm in the president position or not. So it's all good. And thank you so much for your support. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Judy. All right, Sean, I think we're up.
I think we are. I think we are.
You reversed the order. I'd put your name first. I see what you did there.
Alphabetical order. Come on, ladies first in alphabetical order. So, all right.
So Sean and I are the co-chairs of the membership committee, as you know. We have been trying to kind of get our ducks in a row and get things organized and figure out processes and procedures, but also more importantly, create opportunities for folks to connect with each other. And we held a virtual town hall related to chapters last fall. And we are planning, based on that conversation, planning our next chapter related event, which is, we're calling a chapter showcase. So we're going to invite some of the folks that we know have started chapters and are running chapters, just to share some of the awesome work that they're doing, as well as maybe some tips and advice for other people who are either interested in starting a chapter or started a chapter but aren't sure kind of how to get things off the ground. So it's not just for people who have chapters or want chapters, but it's also just to showcase the work that chapters are doing, but it should be a good learning experience for other folks who are interested as well. And we'll have other events probably after that, but that's the next one. That's the next one that we have planned. And I'm in a space where I'm sort of taking one thing at a time. So we'll get through this one, and then we'll do the next one, and then we'll see what else is needed. So Sean, I don't know if there's anything you want to add.
Just if anyone's interested in being part of our committee, we're always looking for members to join and mentor, because Rachel and I want to move on and pass the baton to new chairs and new leaders. So folks are interested in energized around membership and doing this type of work in the committees, reach out to us.
Thank you. Right. I think we're at the portion of the evening where we want to just open the floor up.
Rachel, I'm so sorry to interrupt, but I wanted to see if I could just talk about CSJ's response to the recent and continued racial violence. So we have some initiatives in progress. So I just wanted to, if that's okay, just kind of.
Yes, please. Yes.
Thank you. I should have done it earlier, but I'm sorry, I lost sight of it. So I imagine some of you will have questions about this. What is CSJ doing to address these recent killings, the violent and negligent policing of Black Americans and Black communities? So we want to let you know that we have met, CSJ leadership, the board, committee leaders, we've met, and we have developed at least an initial plan of action. So the first thing will be, you'll see soon that our lovely communications officer, Franny Neal, will put out a call to members for resources to address racial trauma and violent and negligent policing in Black communities within the 5 areas of counseling practice, clinical supervision, counselor education, counseling advocacy and leadership, and research. So if you have resources, anything related to this topic and these areas, please, when the call out comes, there will be the email to send the resources to. And then what we will do is we will organize them and compile them and put them on the CSJ website, open access for everyone. So that's one initiative. The second is we're actually very excited because we reached out to ACA, and ACA, as well as several other divisions, AMCD, SAGE, ASGW, ACCA, ARC. I believe there might even be 1 or 2 additional ones. This is kind of an ongoing conversation between ACA and the various divisions to get as many people on board and sponsoring 2 events. So one is June 8th, Monday at 6:30 p.m. I Need a Minute, a time for collective mourning, a gather for all counselors. Ahmaud Arbery, Breonna Taylor, George Floyd. Unfortunately, these are the most recent African-American victims that have lost their lives by the hands of law enforcement or vigilantes for being Black in America. The global observation of this loss of life has and continues to have a significant impact on the mental health and physical health of all Americans witnessing these actions and responses. So sponsored by, as I said, ACA, CSJ, AMCD, SAGE, ASGW, ACCA, ARC, potentially other divisions, other chapters will be coming together. There's information now under the mental health resources section of the ACA website. If you go to mental health resources and then racism, you'll see there are a series of events that are being sponsored by ACA. So there's that opportunity to come together. And then also on June 19th, Juneteenth, 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. Eastern Time, a town hall on racial trauma and the violent and negligent policing of Black Americans. In response to recent and continued police violence toward Black Americans, CSJ and co-sponsors ACA, AMCD, SAGE, ASGW, say it NECA, NECA, ACCA, and ARC are holding a town hall event to allow ACA chapters, divisions, and members to share how they're addressing this violence, call one another to action, and discuss how we can all advocate at the individual, community, and larger societal levels. We'll also remember and celebrate Juneteenth and hold an open forum for people to speak and be heard. So we hope that you will join us for those events. And thank you. I'll turn it back to you, Rachel and Sean, so we can have a conversation with everyone.
Thank you, Lauren. Thank you for sharing all that, and thank you for your leadership in organizing it.
Thank you. And I just want to say too, this is just the beginning. So we plan to do more. I think we'll do a survey probably at the Juneteenth event to find out from you all, you know, what else can we do on an ongoing basis to address this violence. One thing I heard at the AMCD town hall with past presidents is that there are still a number of people who don't know what to do. They're saying they want to be involved, they don't know what to do. So I think that's something specifically that we'll be asking everyone about, you know, what is it that we can offer you as an organization through CSJ to help you to be able to take action. So I look forward to this ongoing conversation and action with all of you.
Thank you. So that's a great note, actually, I think, to open things up. We have a couple of questions on the slide, but really this is open. This is, it could be related to the things that Lauren was just sharing. If there are other events that you would like to see CSJ, other issues you'd like to see CSJ address, just really anything. This is our time when we get to hear from members. Make sure you unmute yourself. And I'm also happy if it's easier for people, if they prefer to do the chat box. I'll also we'll keep an eye on the chat box if you prefer to contribute that way, but would love to hear your voices as well.
Danielle.
Nice using the raise hand function. I like it. Danielle,
I think you're still mute.
See if we can. Danielle, it looks like Danielle is unmuted.
Danielle, if you want to type your question into the chat box, we can take it there until we figure out what's going on with the audio.
Yeah. And I see Judy was sharing that there was a comment made at the governing council meeting today that you all may want to do in listening resources, categorize them in groups. Okay, so related to the resource compilation.
Which in each one of the counseling domains there, so.
Mm-hmm.
And Judy, does that go along with like the 5 areas?
I think it just depends on what folks want to do, but I think the thought was, you know, maybe resources for counselors that are working with folks, resources around white privilege and some of those different issues. So trying to figure out what you think are your best categories. You know, we don't have to be prescriptive by any means, but I thought it was a good idea that then people can kind of go to those different places where they may want to be able to utilize the resources.
Questions, thoughts. I hope you guys can see Well, I guess, are you excited to be a CSJ member?
I can step it up if I
All
may.
right.
Yeah, so my name's Alex. Thank you very much. I'm a new member. Sorry about that. Get a little nervous. So I'm a student,
Welcome.
and
Welcome.
thank you. I'm a student at UTRGV, University of Texas Rio Grande Valley, under the guidance of Dr. Salma Itznaga. I just want to say, and I started the Council for Social Justice here, RGV Rio Grande Valley. That's the area where I live in. So I would say I am very, very much excited if we would be able to put together a conference. I think I come back from a humanities background, and so we would always have conferences, and just the fact that we are able to have that space apart from the ACA and just control our own narrative and basically our own scholarship, I think that would be very powerful. And I would very much, anything I can help out with, and especially like getting student support, student attendance, I would be very much interested in helping out.
And Alex, we're gonna tap you when we do our chapter showcase and have you
Definitely
join us and share a little bit about what you're doing.
Of course, looking forward to that.
Selma already volunteered, not you specifically, but
some have volunteered, some will be voluntold. It's part of the process. Other questions?
Other thoughts about the conference? Maybe we can pick that thread up a little bit.
Alexis, you have your hand up.
Hi, everyone. Yes, I'm not sure who called on me, but hello, thank you. Hi, everyone. I'm from the CSJ chapter at Mississippi State University, and we're being advised by Dr. Luby, and Shaquita is our president. And so some things that I think would be useful or helpful, some questions that I had in terms of what is CSJ doing and how can we help and things like that. I agree with the resources list. And in the resources list, I was thinking about maybe some information about links about how we can get involved and donate. I know, I can't, Miss Colette Dollarhide, I realized that you were bringing up, we're in the midst of Corona and things like that. And I just think that it is a very valid point that not everyone can get out and protest and things like that, but advocacy looks different, and it's different in a number of different ways. And there's a lot of organizing and things like that that can be done behind the scenes. So I was thinking about maybe some links for donating, some real links about the correct links for the correct donations, making sure it's going to the right funds, more information about petitions that can be signed electronically from home and things like that. I'm interested in maybe being able to converse about CSJ's official statement about the issues or things like that, just so I can talk with colleagues and things like that in this area. And then if anyone has any information or book references and things like that to help us educate one another on issues specifically pertaining to the Black community and historical events and how that impacts today's climate, I think that would be really helpful.
Excellent, definitely.
Great suggestions. Thank you, Alexis. I'm writing your, I'm writing you down too for our chapter showcase.
I have to say, can I say something?
Please do.
Please.
Just following up on what Alexis said, I think really looking at the history, I think one thing that we don't usually focus on is incarceration and how that is really embedded in a lot of things, like correctional mental health. I work in a correction facility, so I see these things every day, how certain neighborhoods are policed in New York and how that leads to mass incarceration. That as of today, there are about 2 million people incarcerated. A majority of them are Black and brown folks, and that is an everyday issue. But I see that we even within our counseling profession, we don't even talk about that as much. But that is some of the issues that's leading up to what is causing what's happening today, and how we all benefit from the prison industrial complex that companies are using people incarcerated to manufacture things and stuff like that. When we talk about ending mass incarceration, I don't see a lot of counselors at the table. When we talk about prison reform, I don't see a lot of counselors at the table. But we could come in and bring a holistic lens to it. What can our prisons and jail look like if you're really focusing on people and integrating people back into the community?
Is it, was that Alice?
Yes.
Alice?
Yes.
That sounds like it could be a wonderful topic for a webinar sponsored by CSJ. I mean, you're talking about such an important topic and you sound very knowledgeable. So maybe we'll tap you if you're interested in doing something like that.
Definitely.
That's great. Thank you. Other comments, other folks want to speak out. We'd also love to just hear about the work that you're doing. So if there are, Alice is a good example of she was sharing some of the work that she's doing and knowledgeable about and passionate about. If there are other things that you're doing or working on doing, we'd love to hear about the work that you're doing related to counseling, related to social justice. It's nice to hear. It's nice to hear just that, you know, folks are out there working and we have a lot to learn from one another.
And Rachel, I'm going to take this opportunity real quick. I need to step out right now. So I just wanted to tell everyone, thank you. I'm not abandoning this meeting. I'm actually leaving to meet with African-American male counselor educators. We're doing a meetup this evening. So I need to be there in that space as well. So I hope you will grant me some grace in doing so. I look forward to meeting and working with each and every one of you. As you all well know, there's so much work to be done and there's so many ways to do it. So be safe, be safe, be safe.
Thank you, Sean. Thank you for being here and thank you for the work you're doing. We'll be in touch.
Thank you, Sean. Dr. Smith.
Could I just really quickly point out, I just pasted something into the chat, a story on USA Today. It is a list of a wide range of different organizations that are doing important advocacy work related to historically oppressed populations. And it's because it's in USA Today, I kind of trust that these are legit, but it really highlights a variety of organizations that you wouldn't think of, but have perhaps come to life in the last couple of days. So I just thought I would mention what they are.
Thank you. Yeah, feel free to share resources if there are things that, that come to mind as well. I might start calling on people.
Well, let me just say, I will copy the chat box. So this can be kind of the start of our resource bank, right? So we can include the resources that people put in the chat. And I kind of want to call you out, but I also understand, Franny, if I wasn't planning on doing this, but our communications officer, Franny Neal, really has done an amazing job marketing all of our initiatives and all the things that CSJ is doing. So don't feel like you have to, Franny, but if you want to talk a little bit about where people can get information about events, how you're marketing our events, please feel free.
Sure. So hi, everybody. Thank you, Lauren. So I'm the communications officer and conference chair, so I want to give a plug too for conference. If you'd like to plan this conference, please reach out to Colette and me as well, and I'd love to work with you. We've got a great team, and I'd love to expand that even more. So for communications, we have our Facebook. I put that in the chat. Our Instagram, I put that in the chat. We have a Twitter as well, but I cannot remember the handle at this moment, so I'll put that in the chat. Hi, Danielle.
Oh, so sorry. I was testing my microphone. I did not know that was off.
Go ahead.
I'm so sorry. You please go ahead.
Okay. I'm glad it's working though. That's great. I was just going to say, I also post on the website. on ACA Connect, and then Lauren shares through email as well. So if you ever have any resources, please feel free to email. I will put the CSJ email in the chat as well. And I'll put my personal email as well, so that if you want to get a hold of me right away, that's the best way to get a hold in. And you know, if there's something that your chapter is doing and you want us to highlight it, that's great. We love to do that. So just feel free to reach out to me, and I look forward to working together. And yeah, let's keep this momentum going.
Thank you, Franny. Thank you for all the work you've been doing. I did see 2 hands raised, and then I know Danielle had her hand up and sounds like her microphone is working. So let's come to Danielle, and then I see 2 other hands raised that I'll come to afterwards. Go ahead, Danielle.
Thank you so much. I'm so sorry to cause all that interruption. I'm technologically challenged. Thanks for having me, and thanks for the award and the grant. I had kind of a general question that I feel like needs to be addressed from within our, from the Texas Counselors for Social Justice, and is that we just have a really difficult time with interest in leadership, and particularly from people of color. We have very little diversity in terms of race and ethnicity on our board currently, and it makes me a little bit uncomfortable sometimes to not have a lot of representation. And we are kind of in a little bit of a tricky spot. Being in Texas, it's just not as big of a division as we would like comparatively to some other areas. And so I was just hoping for maybe some divisions in areas that have had a lot of success in increasing interest and finding ways to reach people of color to be interested in leadership. I would love to hear more about that, and the particular work that I think we've done really well, if anybody needs any help with, is working with the anti-transgender murder epidemic, or epidemic of fatal anti-transgender violence, which primarily targets Black trans women, about 90%. And Texas has been a really problematic state for that. So we've been really focusing a lot on hate crime statutes and training and kind of awareness in that area. If anybody needs any resources or anything, feel free to reach out. And thank you so much.
Thank you, Danielle. Does anybody want to speak to that, to the questions that Danielle raised? I'll just say briefly that in some of the work that I've done with advocates and activists of color, one of the challenges that they face is racism within the movements. So one of the things I think we have to, as an organization, continually do is look at ourselves, right? Are we creating spaces where we are, I don't want to say getting rid of racism, because I think, this is an ongoing process, but are we really interrogating our own practices and the ways that we're working with one another to reduce the experience of racism within movements and within organizations? Because that is certainly a burden that people of color experience, I would say. And again, that's not my lived experience, so I don't want to speak too much to that, but I also wanted to point that out so that we don't just rely on people of color to respond to that question as well.
Yeah, and I'll just speak a little bit more practically. I know, Rachel, you had mentioned earlier doing a webinar in regards to disproportionate incarceration of Black folks, but I also think that it is definitely, I know we have a committee about leadership, but to foster leadership, it might be useful to have maybe a training for our different chapters or branches of CSJ to talk about things like recruitment and things in that area, just so that we can give practical tools on how to expand organizations, on how to target specific populations and support specific populations, and also how to be intentional in addressing our own biases so that when we're presenting ourselves, that people are able to receive it. And so I think that that would be a practical way to kind of get to Danielle's point.
That would be fantastic. What a great idea. Thank you. I'm writing these down. I think, Chiquita, you had your hand up. Do you want me to unmute you? Let's see if I can.
I just want to say too, like, addressing to what Danielle said, I feel a little bit unprepared to respond in terms of a chapter, as a university or a state chapter of CSJ. But I'll say on the national level at CSJ, we really see the mentorship program as an opportunity to capture hopefully a diverse array of folks with different backgrounds, different experiences, trainings, expertise, interests. And, you know, it's a bit selfish in the sense that we're hoping that that will become a pipeline of leaders in CSJ, because I think we've realized too, as a national organization, that we would like to have more nominees. Like we would like to have more folks be interested in leadership positions. And I think that it's been happening. And so the mentorship program is definitely something. Dr. Ebony White, I love your idea about doing trainings for chapters. I think that that could be a really good piece of work for us to take on too. And I love this discussion, and other ideas that people have, please let us know, because I think we know that this is an issue, and it's definitely something that we want to address. And in terms of the university and state chapters, I need to think on that a little bit. So I'm just kind of thinking off the top of my head, but I wonder as a state chapter, if you're reaching out to HBCUs, Hispanic serving institutions, tribal colleges, places where counselors are, and, you know, if you reach out to them, they'd be very happy to be involved.
Thank you, Lauren. Chiquita?
Hi, everybody. I have a couple of questions, and I was writing down some notes when Dr. White was talking, so I hope that this isn't a repeat of some of the things that she said, but I have a question about how we can, or if there's an opportunity for the university chapters to have opportunity to connect and talk about all the things that we're doing and how we can support one another. Because I think I have had a wonderful opportunity to have talked to Alex and Selma and just really be able to get some ideas from them in terms of what we could do with some of our social justice initiatives here in Mississippi. And so that was tremendously beneficial to me. And coming to a town hall was the way that I was able to connect with them. But I'm really anxious to see there be a platform or something on our website. I think that maybe that's coming, you know, that can have us be able to be in touch and be linked together and have contact information so that we can pretty easily reach out to one another. And, you know, even if it's just quarterly, have some type of support, because I think that that can also help to build state and university chapters, you know, when you can actually have a mechanism to actually get in touch with people who are doing it apart from our town hall.
Yeah, I can speak to that a little bit. So yes, you are right that some of those things are in progress. We, our intention when we did our first town hall in the fall was to do one 3 times a year. So fall semester, spring semester, and summer semester. Everything that happened in the spring has really thrown that off. But that is still our intention, to hold those meetings regularly. And then the other piece that Dr. Smith and I are working on is the contact information. We don't have a really good updated list of like who's a chapter, who's their advisor, what's the email address. Like all that information needs to be updated. So that is in progress. And so that's sort of an invitation. If you are a chapter and you can reach out to us, that would be super helpful. Otherwise, we're going to start putting things out to try to collect that information. And if you're interested in being a part of our committee and helping us do that, that would be super helpful too, because it's definitely the kind of thing, I think, Chiquita, you're speaking to the kind of thing that we have heard when we've done those in the past and continue to hear, that folks want opportunities to connect with each other. And I think we can do a better job of facilitating that.
Okay, and so my other question, well, first I want to say, I love the idea of a conference. I totally wish we could do that tomorrow. I think that would be fantastic. I'm ready for it and really ready to work to make that happen. So yes, yes, yes on that. And so my other question is, I'm just curious about what other universities are doing in terms of the current events, the continued violence, that kind of thing. Like today, and I was aware that there was something going on or there was some plans about those things, but students weren't really involved in terms of what the decision making would be. I'm hoping that we will have an opportunity to be able to shape the narrative in terms of what the supports are going to be. And I did send my information to my advisor, who is also our CSJ advisor, because I have that kind of relationship and I can say, look, I think we need to be involved, or she will already say, I think this is a space where you guys need to be involved and advocate for us as CSJ to be involved, but also students and students of color to be involved, especially with issues that impact us at Mississippi State, which of course is a predominantly white institution. So I'm just wondering from you guys, what kinds of responses or statements, supportive mechanisms have been put in place for you at other universities to manage this current concern?
That's a great question. Let's open it up and see if anybody wants to share what they've seen happening. It's a great question.
I'm the advisor for our university, also Ohio State, and the students are incredibly active. They have already published their own statement. They did that today, and I was, just really impressed. They're actively involved in the community protests, and they're walking and they're showing up for the within the curfew kind of events. So they've pretty much like gone on without me, which, okay, they're great. They're out there doing it. That's what we want. I don't know if it would be helpful, but if you want, Chiquita, I'd be happy to send you a copy of their statement. Do you want to put your, good, okay. I'll send you that. Send me your email and I'll send it to you.
And I don't know that this exactly addresses your question, Chiquita, but I think, the one thing is, obviously it speaks to the need for us to work on connecting, creating a platform for chapters to share and connect with each other and all that. So that's definitely something that I'm sure will be a part of our strategic planning, which we're going to be doing at the end of this month. And, something that we'll definitely make a point of doing. And then the other thing is, I am planning on other CSJ leaders creating a survey to go out at probably the Juneteenth event, where we'll be able to ask people, what is it that you feel you need? How can CSJ support you in your development and taking action and all that? So that might not speak directly to what university or state chapters are doing, but I think there's a way, maybe we should talk to Chiquita. There's a way that we can create the survey so that we kind of ask about the different levels, nationally, state and university chapters, what would we like to see? What would you like to see happen, and how can CSJ support you in that? The other thing I just want to put out there is, I encourage all of you, wherever you work, live, love, play. I was involved with some folks in sending a letter to our university president, and the very next day the president released a statement. So I think, there are a lot of perhaps well-intentioned people who maybe aren't sure exactly what to do or haven't quite decided if they're going to take action. And sometimes that little press of kind of holding them accountable, right? Saying, hey, silence is complicity. This is the time to take a stand on things. Whatever networks you have, I encourage all of us to reach out. And even the way that CSJ approached ACA about responding and getting involved in events, it had a very positive outcome. I think now, so Franny mentioned, we have more divisions on board now, ACEs and the family counseling, what IA, MFC also are co-sponsoring the events on racial trauma and violent and negligent policing of Black Americans. So I think, using our privilege where we can and kind of leveraging it and putting a little pressure on people, I've seen have a response.
I saw that Pat had her hand. Do you want to?
Yeah. Oh, I see Adam with a hand raised.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
I have my camera off because I'm really not in a good place for it to be on right now, so I've been keeping that off. I'm currently going into my last year at Niagara University. I'm glad to see some of the people around here. My previous career, which was about 20 years, I actually was at Rio Grande Valley, and I was down the road from Mississippi State, where I was at Delta State. So it's really good to see people from areas that I'm really accustomed to. I have been, as I've said, all over the country. I've seen a lot of things that have been heartbreaking, one of which really has been triggered in the last couple of weeks. I worked at a university that had a football player down in Florida about 5 years ago. He was shot. So I've been in contact with some of the people with that. That's been very difficult. So that's one of the things that pulled me into this. I would absolutely love a conference. I think that would be beautiful. Something I have seen trending online, and I don't know if anyone thinks it's an issue. I see people get shut down just on language, like racist language, ableist language, sexist language. I'm also in SAGE. I was wondering if anyone thought that was an issue to get into.
Can you say maybe what you mean by that? I'm not sure I know exactly.
But my previous job, like I actually saw it because I managed some press conferences, and you could see people using like racist or sexist terms, and hands would go down in the crowd. I mean, you would see body language change just based on words that were used. And I'm watching on social media, and I've worked with developmentally disabled people too, because that was one of the jobs I took when I made my change, because I wanted to get some experience, and it was a great experience. And I became very, very hyper aware of people using ableist language. And I just see people on social media just getting really upset about it. It's something I've been picking up on a lot. I was just wondering if that was a topic that would be out there.
Yeah, wondering if it's something that, in terms of making recommendations for language to use or not to use, is that?
There was like a class I went to that wasn't like at school, but that was like 50% of the class is just going like, it's like stuff like people use just when they talk. It's like, stop using this.
Yeah, so maybe that's something that is a resource people could, like if we had resources around that, that could be something that is shared, like what language is appropriate or not appropriate to use.
Yeah, I'm so new to it. I was asking if it's just maybe something that was like regional that like I'm at, or is that something that I mean that would be helpful?
I don't know. What do other folks think? Helpful?
I think it would be helpful. Sorry, I can't see everyone right now. I too am not using my camera, but I agree with the language piece, because even when I started to talk, I
think we lost you, Alexis, but
potentially mislabeled one of the individuals in the group just by, can y'all hear me?
Yes, yeah. We might have lost you.
Anyone hear me? Oh. Okay. I think or like that, and I caught myself. Oh.
Seems like you're cutting in and out, but I think I think your point was that you think it's a good idea to be able to have that kind of information, because we can make mistakes around language and labeling. Alexis, feel free if correct me if that was wrong. You can put something in the chat if you want, or unmute again. But hopefully I got the idea from you. I thought I saw Pat perhaps with a hand up.
Yes, I'm sorry. Thank you. I wanted to go back just briefly for a moment to Danielle's point a little bit earlier in the conversation. And I remember being at, as a spectator in a way, at a governing council meeting some time ago as the assistant to Dr. Lambert, immediate past president. And what was put on the table on that particular day, speaking to what you were saying, Danielle, if you're still here, I'm not sure. If you want to have diversity, if you want to bring everybody to the table, it has to be intentional. And so when you're looking at from whether it's, local, the university, at the national, those who sit around the table and make those decisions, they must make intentional decisions to involve everyone, because we do need more diversity, obviously, across the board. And if part of the mission of CSJ is to be open and to, look at the issues and so forth, then you've got to bring that to the table. Another point too, which I'm excited about with the mentoring committee and those matches, when I was thinking about it, this is a good way through that mentoring aspect to help people who are of diverse race to figure out how to join. Some people do not know, how do I get into leadership? What do I do? What's the process? Also, because of the racial piece that might be a part of this is the fear of asking, where do I join? How do I walk into that leadership? So I think there's a couple of variables and dynamics here that we should keep in mind as we move forward. So I just wanted to make that comment. Thank you.
Thank you, Pat. I think that was very helpful. Thank you for sharing.
Rachel, this is Judy. Can I add something in there?
Please.
Yeah, okay. So building on what Pat was saying, hi Pat, good to see you, is that sense of intentionality and looking within your state for people that are diverse, figuring out, again, I think Lauren was mentioning some of these things, who the students are in some of the different universities or whatever. I happen to know a fair number of people in Texas. So if you put your email down in the text chat, I can see if we can link you up with some folks in Texas. Maybe they have some students and or people that are directly interested in becoming involved. So I think that's that intentionality, really reaching out and figuring out who are our folks in these different areas and who can help bring either great people that are going to contribute as well as diverse folks too that are going to be great. So that combination.
Thank you, Judy. Other thoughts?
I do actually, if I may. And this just goes more going back to structure. And I'm just asking because I'm curious because and just as a quick background in the Rio Grande Valley here in tip of Texas, surprisingly, even though we're at the epicenter of some of the political conversations, border wall and the refugee crisis, surprisingly, and it's just from my experience, some of the faculty and students are a little bit cautious about approaching these issues. And so what I'm trying to get at is, no one had ever even contemplated a counselor for social justice student chapter would ever be established. And so I'm going to try my best to, keep it going, but I am anticipating that, no one else might keep it going after I'm gone. So I was talking to Dr. Itznaga about it, and I'm saying, like, do we have community chapters for CSJ? Because, I would still be able to keep a community chapter, and there would still be visibility. And that would, help create that network within the region of practitioners who are definitely similarly minded. And what I had thought was, it could be a hybrid of, the community chapter and the student chapter, but Dr. Itznaga mentioned that there was no community chapter within CSJ. That's something that we could potentially look into, like the creation of community chapters, the possibility of community chapters.
Yes, that is actually in discussion right now.
Great, awesome.
And I think your point really underscores the rationale for it very well. Lauren, do you want to say anything about that?
Yes. So, Alex, that's a very timely question because in the bylaws, there are, it's written that we may establish state and university chapters, but actually there's a group of mostly students, but also now community members in South Florida who wanted to start CSJ South Florida because they felt, well, what we learned from our university is that if we made it a university chapter because it's considered a student organization, when folks graduate, they're no longer eligible to be part of the university chapter, at least, you know, in terms of it being a student organization. So they didn't really like that idea. But then the state chapter, I think, felt a little overwhelming in the sense that they felt like there were things very specifically going on in South Florida that they wanted to address that were social justice issues, and that it would be, I think, more efficient, or the way that they were conceptualizing it was, I think, what you're alluding to, that it's really, there are these community issues that they wanted to address and organize around. So we are in a June board meeting, I think, going to be voting on the establishment, allowing for the establishment of regional chapters. And so I think regional chapters can be defined as community chapters, right? Whether it's, you know, a northern state region, or this one's going to be South Florida. But the board, again, we haven't voted yet. I know we consulted with the Elder Council, and people seem to like the idea because I think looking at social justice in general, there's that idea, right, to think globally, act locally, like that. I mean, a lot of these issues are very locally like situated. So I hope that you know, that kind of addresses what you're saying, and definitely stay tuned for that.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. Thank you so much.
Might be time for a Northern Virginia, DC area chapter. I see some George Mason folks on the line. Just put in a little plug there.
Absolutely. And if I could just hop in, Dr. Goodman, I didn't want to cut anybody off. Absolutely. So hi, everybody. My name is Tyler Kovatic. Like Dr. Goodman was saying, I'm a student at George Mason University, and I just wanted to take a moment to commend everybody here that is engaging in social justice work. I feel like within the profession and just given the current climate, there's so much work to be done. So I just wanted to thank all of you that are engaging in this work. I think it's much needed, and so thank you for that. But yeah, I would love to bring a chapter to George Mason or the Northern Virginia region. I know a couple of my other colleagues are interested in doing the same. So I look forward to seeing a lot of you, hopefully, at this showcase.
Hi, I'm Megan McAndrew, and I want to echo what Tyler is saying. I'm a student at George Mason as well. I think it would be really good to kind of start a collegiate chapter at George Mason and kind of get the ball rolling on that. And it was really inspiring, really, as a student, to hear all of your stories and how you put social justice in that field is really inspiring as to see that it happens and that it actually works. So thank you for all your hard work.
If I could, I just want to add just, oh, I'm sorry, Rachel.
No, go ahead. Go ahead, Colette.
Okay. Just, you know, from our experience in Ohio, we started a statewide chapter, and I'm glad it's statewide. I understand why people would, especially Texas, how large it is, and when communities are spread out. One of the things that I think is really an advantage of being able to have a statewide organization is that sometimes communities get isolated, and it has really enriched our organization as a state when because it is statewide, and there are a number of wonderful individuals who've joined us from different parts of the state, which allows for a deeper conversation about what are the needs that we can promote. And what we've done to address that is we've tried to move the presidency around the state in order to try to address some of those local issues. So just some additional thoughts.
I think those are really good points, Colette. Thank you. I'm sort of two minds about what makes more sense, right? So it's helpful to hear other perspectives. Is there anybody else who wants to share anything? Any feedback for our CSJ leadership team? Any suggestions? Any requests? What we could be doing better?
Hello?
Doing more or less of? Yeah, Chiquita, go ahead.
I don't know, this may not be my place, but I wanted to make sure that people who receive grants were made aware of the process to be able to have, you know, to get their funds. So if they don't, I'm assuming it's been done or will be done.
Yes.
I'm just speaking as a treasurer, not as a grant recipient. So I want to say that, not like, you know.
No, I appreciate that. I was trying to think if folks who receive grants are on the line and are not sure about how to do that, please reach out.
Yes.
And it sounds like Chiquita would be able to help them. Okay.
Yes. I'll put my email in the chat, and they can email me and I can help them get that going.
Thank you. I know it's a little tricky sometimes getting the money, so and it's important. Anything else from anyone? Any requests or feedback?
Just wanting to ask briefly, I know there's a university kind of chapter discussion, I think, following this. I apologize, I came in a little bit late, so missed kind of the order of what's going on. Would there be like kind of a question time to talk to those students or a way to connect in that regard? I'm from a university where we're trying to get a chapter started, and so really interested in connecting directly with other students, especially those who may have newer chapters or who are also in that kind of beginning stage, to see what they're doing.
Yeah, we're gonna have a chapter showcase and best practices, which will be, I can pull the date up again because I don't have it memorized, and I'll put it in the chat for everyone.
If I can, in the meantime, if I may, sorry. For anyone interested in starting a university chapter, I have a sample constitution, because I know that at least for me will take a little bit of time, so I can definitely share that. It'll definitely speed up the process for anyone trying to start a university chapter.
And I'll be happy to share any documents that we have too at Mississippi State.
Mm-hmm.
So what would be helpful? So I just put my information and Sean's information in the chat. If there are folks on the call who have chapters or folks on the call who are interested in starting chapters, send us an email and we'll try to be the central repository of that. So we'll try to get connected with one another. We're going to do the chapter showcase in July, but again, we want to try to have a central place of facilitating people's connection with one another. So please reach out to us so we can have that information. And then we'll do the showcase, and then we'll also plan on starting back up with the regular, probably either 3 times a year or 4 times a year meetings, which will just be like for folks to connect with one another. So we'll also plan on doing that as well. And thanks for those of you who are volunteering. It's wonderful to hear. Like, I'm happy to share this. You know, it's great to hear the support that you're offering one another. It helps. It helps.
Yeah. No. Thank you to everyone so much. I really do appreciate that.
Anything else from folks?
There's also a page on the website with resources for chapters. So go and check that out under Get Involved. There's Become a Member and then chapters. There's 2 tabs. So.
Awesome.
I apologize. I just had one quick question. Demetrius Jafunza, I'm relatively new. Is there anyone here now that's from Florida, close by the Tampa area, Tampa, Sarasota, Northport area? Or from Florida, period?
Well, Demetrius, I'm from Miami. So not super close to Tampa, but in Florida.
Okay. It's just about making those connections in Florida, as well as being a participant in any activity that's close by.
Yeah, please reach out to me. I will put the president email in the chat box, the CSJ president email. Please reach out. We have a very active group just ready for the green light, waiting for the green light to start the CSJ South Florida chapter. So, and really, I want to speak to what Colette said. Really, our idea with this is, I think to Colette's point is, we have this idea too that, the regional chapters could eventually come together and create state chapters. Christina McGrath too is in Florida. So she put her email in the chat box. I'm really glad you reached out, Demetrius, because I think this is a great start. I'm really excited to hear so many people like wanting to, I think as Rachel was saying, to connect with each other, share resources with each other. This is what we're all about, right? This is what's needed for this kind of work, is to create a supportive, collaborative community.
I agree. Thank you.
Thank you.
So I think we are just past 8:30, and I know we're planning to wrap up around now. So just want to see if anybody else has anything that they want to share before we start to wrap up. I'm just going to do a very quick sort of optional community care. I mentioned this at the beginning, but for those of you, I've sort of stopped trying to use the phrase self-care, because I think it puts a lot of individual responsibility for people to, take a bubble bath or whatever. But it's like, we need to be building supports and ways of taking care of each other in structures. And those of us in leadership and with power and privilege need to be doing that, instead of putting the responsibility back on people to figure that out for themselves. So to that end, I've started doing this at the beginning and end of most of my classes. So let me see if I can share. So can you see a whiteboard? Yes? Okay. So this makes it a little bit more anonymous. So what I'll just ask anybody who wants to share something that they did in the past week, or something that they experienced that made them smile or laugh, or made somebody else smile or laugh, something that brought you or someone in your life joy over the past week. And then we can all sort of bask in the glow of a little bit of joy and a little bit of just taking care of ourselves and taking care of one another.
Playing with a puppy.
That's great. Yes, you can say them out loud too. You don't have to write. Or the chat, that's great too. A virtual birthday party. I did a virtual baby shower.
I actually went in my garden and watching some of the blooms on my cucumbers to start. I'm starting late because I wasn't sure if I was going to do it, but I decided to go ahead. So just going in my garden. I enjoy that.
I love it. That's so nice. I enjoy trying to make things grow also. Sometimes I'm more successful than other times.
So this sounds worse than it is, but I always recount the story of when I got attacked by a hawk on campus, because the resulting thing was just me walking around really goofy and people having no idea what happened because no one saw it. So that always brings a good laugh whenever I talk to a friend or someone who got to see me afterwards.
That's great.
I just want to acknowledge too, Rachel, I see that there's a comment in the chat box about, that perhaps this is a difficult question for some people to even answer, to acknowledge that, especially for Black folks, this might be a particularly hard week. And
yeah,
what do we do with that? Where do we put that?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm guessing, I don't know, but I'm guessing, there might be an experience that where you supported someone in your life, that you helped make them smile or helped them get through what has been a really difficult time. I would say, not to say just in the past week, I guess, because of course this is an ongoing issue. It's not a new issue, but yeah. Yeah, I appreciate that. Honoring where we are.
Also, something considering with everything going on, sometimes you might not have spoken to someone in quite a while, say from a previous organization or someone from your old neighborhood, and you still have their number, and give them a call. That's what I did. I gave her a call, and not just because, you know, with everything going on, just to see how she was doing, but also we're still going through the pandemic. So it was a way I was covering two things with one. So I called to check on her, see how she was doing as far as quarantining, and then basically just to see how she was feeling regarding the protest and everything, depending on her location as far as what state or what city she's in. And if she needed anything, and she was just glad that I called and reached out to her. And I told her she was just on my mind. And she said, you know, that's a good thing that you did because you made my day. So sometimes just reaching out to someone you may not have spoken to in a while. It could be a family member. It may not necessarily have to be, you know, someone that you haven't spoke to in a while.
Thank you for sharing. A great example of.
See the comments in the chat box? Because I know sometimes when you share screen, you can't see, so.
Oh yeah, I can stop the sharing too. Let me stop sharing because people aren't doing the chat box. There we go.
Yeah, we'll just, yeah, I don't know if you want to look over them or I can just kind of share what people are writing. Jamar made a video about unplugging from media that can be re-traumatizing. So if you're willing to share that with us, I would love to make that available for CSJ members on the website. That sounds like a great resource. And then Colette said, you know, it's a great reminder what you're bringing up about this being a particularly difficult time. And so the I Need a Minute event on Monday at 6:30 p.m. Eastern time is really meant to address that too. Is just a time, there's really not an agenda. I think it's really about people coming together, supporting each other, sharing whatever feelings, experiences you're having. Sean Smith is going to be facilitating that event. And again, it's an event that got sponsored now by ACA and various other divisions. So, so we encourage you to be there with us. Delilah's nephew and her had a virtual dinner. He's almost 4. That's so sweet. Tabitha is treating her sister to her favorite coffee since she was sad about her prom being canceled. Oh, so that's a nice thing. So you're supporting her. Chiquita started walking every evening with her husband, which was a great way to connect. Christina McGrath got to pair up mentors and mentees from across the country with 2 other amazing women. So shout out to Mercy and Pat for that. Mindfulness. So you all are doing a variety of different things. I hope that this inspires some folks maybe to try some things that maybe they have thought about but haven't done yet. More planting and gardening. Someone helped their mother start a project at home.
Jamar shared the video. Thank you, Jamar. Shout out to George Mason students again.
Just a quick reminder too, if you go to the 3 dots, you can save the chat and it saves it to your device, your computer. I don't know if it would save it to a phone, but it saves it to your computer so that if there were things that you spotted during the meeting that you wanted to grab, you know, resources or and weren't able to grab them, you can save the chat and that way you can go back and grab it later.
That's great. Thank you, Colette. We're all learning so much in this age of figuring out new technology, right? Well, thank you all so much. I appreciate you sharing what you're doing to bring a little bit of happiness a little bit of support, or maybe just reduce some of the stress that you're experiencing or that folks in your lives are experiencing. I think that's really important, and I hope that our time together tonight might have been a little bit of part of that, just to connect with other folks who really care about social justice as well and are wanting to figure out ways to continue working together and continue supporting each other. So I just am really appreciative of you all being here. One of the downsides of all that's happening is we can't be in person, but one of the upsides is that I think it means we're able to actually connect with more people than might have been able to come join us in person. So I think that's a positive thing, to be able to connect with you all. So thank you very much. And Lauren, I don't know if you want to say anything to wrap us up.
I just want to thank you and Sean, our wonderful membership committee leaders, and the rest of the membership committee. I think that this is a great way to start, or at least continue, this process of having these town halls, considering the circumstances. So thank you. I think this is a great opportunity for us to get together. And please, I encourage everyone, take a look at the ACA. If you go to counseling.org, under mental health resources and racism. In fact, we'll probably send a link, on our social media, ACA Connect. But please attend the I Need a Minute event on Monday, and also the Juneteenth, the event on June 19th events. And just stay tuned. We have a lot more that we will be offering you, and hope that you'll participate with us in. And thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Take care, everyone.
Take care. Do you want to stay on, Rachel, and debrief it all?
Hang on one second.
Oh.
I want to stop.